Okay, hello everyone. For people joining this live stream, we are doing a little bit of Wolfram language design review, looking at question generators. So it's been a while since I looked at this, like months. So I'm a little bit out of. I have to remember what was going on.
Do you want the 10,000 foot view before
No,
we?
not
Okay.
really. I mean, I know that, but all right. I've never heard of QuestionPool.
Yep, this is a brand new thing we're proposing.
As opposed to a question bank.
It could be called bank. Could be called bank.
Or question collection. Or question. Okay.
I think pool and bank are used in more widely.
I mean, this is essentially a function. This is a list of questions from which you are picking.
That's right.
All right.
In the common use case from which a server is picking for you.
And so, but I mean, aren't there often constraints among the questions? Like you pick one from this set and then you pick another from that set and so on.
Yes. Yes, this is a building block for a quiz. This isn't a quiz itself.
No, I understand, but at each step, I don't understand because, there's like a random sample function because you don't want to ask the same question twice, for example.
Right.
It's not random choice, it's random sample.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the second use case where there's that N, where it's serving multiple, it's using random sample internally.
But is the point of this that you can say cloud deploy this and then you get some kind of question generator thing on the back end?
Essentially, yes. And we could kind of make that work, but really the deployment will happen when you push the button in the question notebook. But essentially, yes.
I don't quite see the importance of this particular thing. I would have thought it was more, well, go ahead. I mean, this is a thing that it's a meta level beyond the individual questions.
Exactly. Right. So, if you want to write a quiz for your class and you want different students to get served different examples, different instances of a question, and you want them all predefined and kind of static, then this is it. It's simple.
What about parameterized questions?
That's QuestionGenerator. So that the next thing down.
Why isn't QuestionGenerator just?
We had wedged these two into the same symbol and made it one thing, and it got ugly and complicated, and so we decided to make it two symbols. We could revert that if you feel strongly.
Okay, all right. Well, let's take a look at this. All right, so I'm. What are we actually going to review here? Because I mean, this obviously doesn't run here, or can
it should? It should in today's maybe just the
version I have here. I mean,
just evaluate like question object semicolon to make sure that the packlet's loaded. Maybe it's not.
This is from March 31st.
Oh well, that's not.
Why? Why is it from March 31st? Can somebody go chase that with Roger?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm asking.
I think Roger may be out today. Let's try this other build here. Build 0928. It's just taking forever to launch for some unknown reason. And is refusing to sign in, which is a bad sign.
Also, it says 13.0. Is that?
I don't know what that's from. I mean, this should be that version that I
think just the welcome page image hasn't been redone yet.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
Still cert March.
What the heck? What the heck? I mean, we've certainly had successful builds in the last 2 weeks, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yep.
Oh, for goodness sake. Okay. Note for Corey, if she's here, since we're heading into a season of design reviews, it's really important to make sure these things are up to date. If Corey wasn't there, maybe you can make sure she has that message.
Yeah, we got that. Yep.
Okay, what are we going to do here? So am I going to look at somebody else's screen or what?
Can we look at the examples lower down on these pages? Even if we can't run them, I feel like they give you a pretty good idea of
Okay, great.
what we're trying to do.
All right, question generator. So what we had before is question object, which has the question to ask followed by the assessment mechanism. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So here, this is kind of like an API function.
Yes.
This is very weird.
It is a little weird, but it is kind of like an API function. Yeah.
Very weird. Very pink.
Yeah, it's probably because it's March 31st. If you want me to share and run examples, I can, but
No, but I mean, what? Let me just understand. So the first argument of question generator. By the way, I mean, we have a function document generator, which was one of our less successful, in my opinion. Right? You guys are aware of document generator and how
I am. I bet Schroeder is. I bet Sylvia isn't.
True.
Okay. So it is a trigger the document generator. Okay, parameterize document generator.
Now that the task system is more coherent, these things should get more attention again, I think.
Well,
when they first came out, the task system was a little bit less reliable and harder to understand than it is now.
Are these examples still right?
I think they've been updated even. You know, it's task execute instead of,
right, instead of
whatever
start
it used to be.
schedule task.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go look at this question generator again. Okay. Let's see. So why is there a function at all that does this? Why isn't genfunc just a pure function that gets applied to whatever arguments it should have?
Well, we want a symbolic representation of this thing so we can deploy them and distribute them.
Okay, but I understand. But so what? The thing is an instancing of genfunc, right? Genfunc is a template that has certain parameters.
Right.
Well, actually, genfunc is a pure function.
Genfunc is a pure function.
Why on earth isn't, I mean, this thing is equivalent to, I mean, this thing here.
Right. You almost don't need the question object wrapper, but you need something containing the guts. That would be the question object wrapper.
No, I understand. But so this is, right? That's all it's doing.
Yeah, but it's not doing it until the time comes. Right? It's like a held form of that. The question generator does not evaluate.
Oh, I know, I understand.
Okay.
I'm thinking, when does it evaluate? It evaluates at the time when...
The goal is to make that very customizable. There's a futurized table. That's kind of the start of the idea for that. So you know, there's all types of things. If it's like an adaptive quiz, you need to wait until the previous questions or one previous question was answered before you generate.
This is the kind of thing that I fumbled during our Duolingo discussion, and the kind of thing would be useful for a Duolingo type idea.
Okay. Well, okay, so hold on. What is the thing that puts the action into all of this?
The question notebook. See, this will only happen when it's used in a question notebook, which is really the end goal, is that you have this special environment.
The question notebook is a notebook where normally it's like a giant form. It's like a question notebook is an instance of a form notebook. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a flavor of form notebook.
Okay. Where typically you edit a bunch of things, then you press submit.
If you're the author, you press generate. If you're the student, you press submit. Yeah.
Okay. But all of these things are things where in the question notebook, there is not a literal question. There is instead a question schema or a question generator in place of a literal question somewhere, right?
Right.
So in other words, if I make a new programmatic notebook, where do I make a question notebook?
If you had a
file
new build
in the last
should be
week
right.
or two, but
it should be right there
in March.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you
can do create notebook, a question notebook, even back in March.
Okay. You should check autocomplete is now working.
I think that was part of the same thing that we did.
Okay. Black is the color of Q&A. Has that been looked at?
Yeah, this definitely went through design.
Okay, fine.
It did,
Fine,
yeah.
Fine. Okay, all right. So then I say here, insert a question.
Yeah.
And if you want to insert a question pool, that's another thing that will be available under insert.
Yeah, Schroeder has that ready to demo at some point if you want to see it. We don't have generator working yet, but we have the pools working.
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay, all right. But then, okay, so that's a raw question. Now the alternative is that question you want to be parameterized.
Exactly.
Okay. But it's parameterized one question at a time, or it's parameterized in the whole bank?
Right. So we definitely want to support multi-part questions. And what we have said right now is the output from this question generator doesn't have to just be a question object. It can be a list of question
But how
objects.
does that work in here? I mean, because
they would share a parameter space. Oh, in the authoring notebook.
Yeah. I mean, because it's going to be sprayed apart because it could be like question 7, question 1, question 2. And
I think it would be helpful to see Schroeder's demo of QuestionPool because I think that's going to show us.
Go ahead and should we see that now?
Yeah. Our idea is basically have a like a sub notebook pop up.
Go for it.
Okay, so can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so when you insert a question pool, it looks like this. And here's a question pool that I already added a couple questions to. So you click it, and then it opens up a sub, like Bob said, a sub notebook that is sort of pared down. And then in this notebook, you can add whatever questions you want in the pool.
And in the generator case, I think there would be another section at the top of this notebook where you specify parameter space.
Yeah.
So hold on. So then you press finish,
And it updates this.
Which is
Okay,
not intended to be directly editable, right?
Yes, correct.
Go under insert. Can you go under insert?
Mhm.
And then can you insert, do the pull down there?
That's a toggle.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Okay. Question pool. So hit question pool there.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a null question pool. Okay, so
Perfect.
hit edit question pool. There can't
And
be a
then-
pool within a pool.
We've talked about it. Sylvia and I have talked about that at length. I don't think there's a reason why there can't be, but I don't think we're going to document it on the first go.
Okay. All right. So then we add these, and a question pool. So if I want 10 questions, I don't understand this. I want 10 questions, all from the same random question pool, but I want them as a sample so they never repeat. How do I get that?
Right. So I think in here we also need a n field for
that's
that
an
second
option
argument of question pool,
Yes.
where it will do the random sample and then it'll insert.
Yes, but then how do you spread those
NFM.
apart? And how do I put numbers? How do I put 15 minutes remaining on your exam at this point, or whatever it is? See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if you wanna
this
put- if you
design
wanna-
doesn't support like
Right. Content in between.
rifling content in between in that scenario.
Mhm.
But I mean, you could put you can put arbitrary content in the original authoring notebook. Obviously.
Yeah, above or below. Yeah. But yeah,
No, I understand, but I mean, for example, let's even say you're numbering questions here. What mechanism do you have for numbering questions?
well, yeah, that's what I mean is like right now it will just give a bunch of questions. They won't be numbered or anything.
We could, I mean, numbering wouldn't be hard to
Yeah.
make automate. We could have some sort of option in question pool where you put in like,
Show
whatever you want to call it,
numbers or something.
intermediate operations,
Mhm.
that puts content in the student's notebook in between each one.
It's getting pretty complicated.
That does sound kind of complicated. But I think that's a complicated scenario where you have a question pool where you want to serve multiple pieces and you want different stuff in between each one.
Yes, but I think the idea of numbering questions is going to be really common.
Oh yeah. That can just be an option in the settings menu on the authoring notebook. Is automatically number questions.
Okay. So, all right. So the question here is, in the symbolic form of this, I mean, the whole notebook doesn't really have a symbolic form. Right? I mean, in other words, I'm kind of reluctant to have, well, okay, where would you use the symbolic form of question pool or question generator?
Right. So in the courseware repository.
How exactly? In other words, you would have is there going to be a shingle?
Yeah.
Question?
I mean, that's the idea, is that it could support, any granular content from a single question to a question pool to a full quiz to a full course.
Okay, so hold on. So question object is at the question level.
Mhm.
Question pool is lists of question objects. What's at the next level up? What's the complete quiz?
Yeah, it's a notebook. It's a notebook expression.
It's just
Not-
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but is it obvious that you need to have functions here that go beyond?
I think for deployment, I think it'll be very useful to have this symbolic representation and not just have it be things that only live in notebooks.
Okay. All right. So let's go look back. Could you bring back up the question pool and...
Do you have the ref pages, Stephen?
Oh, I don't, so I'll give back the share.
Okay. All right. Question generator. Okay, what the heck really is this? So let's see, what's the description of question object?
It represents a question.
Represent the question queue. Okay. What resolves? Okay, we've got a question object. How do you resolve to get a particular question?
Right, and programmatically you just open close afterwards. That's what we have in right now.
Okay.
And I think for question pools, it's it would only do 0 arguments probably. For question generator, we have this idea where it can take data that gets passed into the generation function, which would humans probably wouldn't use it, but the question notebook would use it to allow adaptive quizzes. So you could pass in all your assessment result objects and so on.
Or some summary thereof.
Exactly. Right.
But I don't understand. I mean, with question pool, unless it's in one clump, you don't get to do the no repeats thing. Unless you have some very elaborate code that goes and, I mean...
you could pass back up question IDs to exclude. Or, I mean, and when you deploy these things, all the tracking is already happening. So, we already know which students have been served, assuming students are authenticated. We already know which students have been served what questions. And, we can make sure they don't get repeats within the same session. Even if you're calling the same pool more than once.
Okay, look, I'm sorry, I'm a little tired here. Hold on a second. Let me just try and wake up and think about this. Okay. I don't get this really. What the heck is the generator now? Because the generator so really what we want is, in a sense, question table and question map.
You could think of it that way.
I mean, in other words, this question pool is like question table. And are the Q sub I here functions or just question objects?
Just question objects.
Without parameters.
Without parameters.
Okay, whereas a question generator uses question object functions with parameters. Right?
Yes.
And what it's doing in the end I'm so confused. I mean, really all it's doing is it's mapping because in the end you've got to fill in those values from somewhere. And I don't quite understand why you don't just take genfunc and fill in the values directly. I mean, what does this thing eat?
Well, I mean, that's why it's delayed rules, because typically the values are going to be some parameter space. Like the examples we have typically are like random entity or random real, you know.
Yeah, but I don't understand why that isn't just in the generator function. Why don't you just put random real, you know, random whatever into the generator function?
Well, I mean, typically a lot of times you want to use the same parameter repeatedly, right? So it's cleaner to just define it once. It's like, you know, it's like API function kind of, or like I said, it's different. Yeah, I mean, it could work like with, it could have a holding attribute.
Well, I hate those, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand this thing. How does it relate to document generator? Does it eat and produce things in the same way, or is this a question generator function, question generation function or something? Because it's different.
Let me refresh my memory on document generator real quick.
Okay. Actually, you guys.
Yes, it's similar to
how
document generator. Pretty similar, except it. Except it's deployed in a notebook. It's not deployed in a cloud object.
But the template here, no, it's not similar. The template is a string, is simply, oh, I see, it's a function that's applied. No, because it has a, does it have a template apply? Does it have an implicit template apply?
Not in the programmatic form. My thought was in the
no, I'm asking about
notebook.
Document generator. I'm asking about
document generator.
I think it has an implicit template apply.
It must, yeah.
Oh, what a mess. Because you, for whatever reason, don't want to have a template apply.
We could do it that way. If you, I don't. I think people will have trouble writing their questions as template objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, this is a mess. That's horrible looking.
Yep. Right. The saving grace is that hopefully people are going to be writing these, creating these in the question notebook authoring environment.
You're not getting off the hook that way. Look, this thing is either it isn't really a generator. It's not a freaking generator. It's only a generator if the first argument is random. Otherwise, it's just a with. Right?
Well, I mean, it doesn't evaluate. It returns an object that will generate on demand when you want it. That's
yes, which will usually, unless it has random in it, it's going to generate the same thing every time.
Well, I think that's the idea of like how you could get these quizzes that are adaptive. So it wouldn't have to be from random. It could be from a previous answer or something like that. How
does the previous answer come in again?
So the hash is a combination of the
what kind of
first argument and
kind of
whatever's passed in. It just association, join of association.
Okay, so if I give if I repeat one of the parameters that's been fed in, at the
Right.
end, I'm toast.
If you did, well, you'd be overwriting it, right? If you did prime test of association n goes to 5, it's going to use 5 every time, right? It's because, association precedence.
What other function do we have that merges together associations like this?
I mean, there's lots of things that merge associations, but it's more, not like a high level thing like this that I know of.
Can you, okay, talk among yourselves for just 5 minutes. I will be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. And you can, yeah, you can keep everybody. I don't know whether people are paying attention on the live stream, but maybe you guys can discuss this a bit. I'll be right back.
Okay. I mean, Sylvia, what were the other, concepts of this that we've had?
I mean, the first iteration was the width one, but this one is so much less scary looking.
It was just basically a inert wrapper around a width, basically. Yeah.
Does API function not do the joining?
No,
Associations?
everything in the hash of API function is just coming from, although maybe it will accept things that aren't explicitly in the schema as well. But it's not really joining anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand now. It's like you can overwrite a value. Like if it's y goes to 4 and you pass
Right.
in, y
There
goes
could be
to
a
2.
default. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is very similar to document generator, which we hadn't really looked at as a, design point for this. I hadn't used it so long.
Yeah,
The arguments are in the opposite direction, obviously.
I don't think I've really used it. I mean, I think I'm aware of it, but I've never used it myself.
Mm-hmm. I used it in the early days of resource system for internal stuff and did not fall in love with it and abandoned it. But I mean, that's definitely an alternative to just make it work like with.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way of getting around writing some sort of template question object function.
Yeah.
It's just how you apply that. But I feel like most of the mess comes from the template.
The other thing we could do is we could get rid of the question object in there and have it be 3 arguments.
So it takes in like a question interface and an assessment function, or some.
And then it's just like and then it's just like doing like a template apply. But I mean, even Stephen agreed that people aren't going to like writing questions that way. People are going to. I would rather write questions this way, because like you take a question out, a lot of times you might take a question object that already exists as this static thing and you go in and you add slots.
Yeah. It seems the most logical to me. I mean, it doesn't look pretty when you write it out, but I think if you're someone doing it.
Right. And to Stephen's point, you could just put it right in there. We should have examples where we just put it right in there here, and there aren't any parameters. Right.
All right, I'm back. Maybe slightly wider.
Great.
What did you guys figure out?
We still like our design. we don't like the idea of just making it a width.
Okay, let's go through.
We think we need this templated form of question object where the parameter space is clearly defined, and we think this is the best conception of it that we came up with.
Okay, let me look at this format. So the problem is the generator. Okay, so there are some parameters that come from the first argument. Now there are other parameters that are coming from elsewhere. Is that true or is that not true?
It's true, especially in the world of the question notebook.
That's just crazy. It's just crazy. We don't have anything else that works that way. What happens when there's a collision?
Well,
I mean, we have, look, you've got two associations you're feeding in, okay? One that's a built-in association. I don't understand why. So your idea is you want parameterized questions.
Yeah, I mean,
so you want question object functions. And I don't understand why you're not doing it like this. Why it isn't the case? You've got a bank of question object functions, right? So you say there's an ordinary question object and there's other ones which are parameterized questions, which are separated in the courseware repository. Okay. And once they're separated, okay, then what you do is you're saying things like, okay, so then you've got a collection of these functions, right? Just like you've got a collection of questions, right? That's one set of things you have, it's a collection of questions. Another set of things you have is a collection of functions, right?
Right.
Okay, so those functions, when you use them in a notebook, the first thing you do is you resolve some of those things, right? You say this goes to this. Now, what do you get when you resolve that? Do you understand my question? The answer is you get a mess.
Really get a question object. I don't understand.
But look, watch this. You don't. You get a mess. Okay, so you do that.
Well, when you mess up the parameters, I don't understand.
No. You've got two sets of parameters here. Okay, you've got one set that you're feeding in as part of the question generator thing. Okay, you've got other parameters which are not distinguished in the question object that are coming in from the use of the question generator. Correct?
Right, which have like two very standardized names.
What are they?
I think we put it in the question generator docs. We called it like assessment data and,
no,
something like that.
No. So you're muddling up. You've got one thing which is coming in for an association. What do you mean it has standardized names? Then why?
Because this is going to be done by the question notebook.
But then why do we have a separate function? look, what you've got is you've got a function which is stacking on two kinds of association applications, right?
Right.
Okay, we've never done that before. It's rather undefined. It's not clear what happens when there are name collisions. It's kind of a mess. I don't think it's the right design. So let's think about what we do, okay? What you're trying to do is you're trying to have something where you have a parameterized question which has its parameters coming from two places. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what are the two places and what parameters does it get from those places?
Right. One is this, whatever we want to call it, driver generator, the first argument of question generator. And the other is the standard metadata associated with the quiz.
What do you mean standard metadata? What has a standard metadata? QuestionObject doesn't have a standard metadata, does it?
No, quiz notebook, question notebooks have standard metadata that they will pass into question generators.
Wait. But they're not passing them into question objects. They're only passing them into question generators.
That's right.
That are mixed up in some random way with the parameters that the question generator has. The question generator already has resolved at the time, at the compilation time, effectively, from the quiz notebook, correct?
Sorry, I did. Can you say that one more time? I didn't
Yeah,
follow.
so there's two moments in time. There's the quiz notebook turning into there's the, whatever you call it, the quiz source notebook turning into an actual quiz notebook, right? That's one moment when some of these parameters are resolved.
No,
then
none of the parameters are resolved at that time.
Okay. And then you have this weird list of times when the parameters will be resolved.
Yes. So we have this, what we're calling generation time option where everything is resolved for every question generator, everything is resolved at the same time. It's not like the parameters from the generator and the parameters from the quiz are coming at different times. They're all coming at the same time. Yes.
I don't like this design. I mean, I'm not immediately figuring out how to.
We could make it. We could make it hash2, and then we wouldn't have to do it. We wouldn't have anything.
What? Hash2.
The information from the quiz.
By the way, QuestionPool. Again, I don't understand. I don't understand how this is supposed to work. If you pick up a QuestionPool, it is not an operator form that has the number of questions that you feed to it. It is in the QuestionPool itself is a number of questions thing. So it isn't the case that QuestionPool is itself an operator. Do you get what I'm saying? Unlike the question generator, which is itself an operator that gets applied.
It is an operator. It just doesn't take arguments, right?
Oh, God. Yeah, but if you want 17 questions, you put that in the question pool, not in the thing you're feeding to the question pool, which means your idea that you have a collection of question pools just gets blown up. Right? You can't just take, because you can't just take a symbolic question pool and apply it to something. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, we could make the number of things queryable from the outside as well, right? You could.
Well, wait a second, because I mean, if you're going to have on the shelf, so to speak, question objects, question pools, and question generators, that's what you're basically putting it. That's what you basically have in mind.
That's what I have in mind. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't understand, given that the question generator has these parameters, which are just mostly random things, why don't you put the randomness into the question object itself? Why don't you put make the question object? Is it because the question object, is it because of an evaluation issue? Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't put in a question object, can I put random into a question object without trouble?
Sure.
No, but what does it do? Does a question object evaluate its arguments or not?
Yes. Yeah. It's not holding it all.
Okay, so then that's not going to work, is it? So you're hacking it by putting it inside this generator. You're hacking the fact that in
the way that API function is a hack and form function is a hack, and anything where you specify a function as an argument is a hack, and all functional programming is a hack.
No,
yeah, it's a hack.
No, it's not. No, it's not in that sense. It's not in that sense. API function actually takes those parameters.
The function we're specifying takes the parameters. And it's just like document generator, like you pointed out earlier.
No, it isn't, because document generator has a template apply in it. Look, the thing that I don't understand why you don't have a supply of question objects and question object functions. Okay.
How is question object function different than question generator?
It isn't a new symbol. It's just a function. It is a question object, it is a question object wrapped in a function.
We want a unique wrapper so we can deploy it and have custom deployment properties, and we can distribute it, and it'll be a symbolic object that we.
Then I would call it question object function. Then I would call it question object function, and have it be something where you feed it the parameters of the question object as one argument, and then you feed it again. So in other words, the way it would look is, it would say question object function of the thing with all kinds of, hash, whatever they are. Okay. If you really,
I don't understand what the XXX is here. Is that a question object, or it's the guts of a question object?
It's the guts of a question object.
Okay, there's two arguments, right? And they both have hashes in them.
I guess so.
Okay.
And then you apply that to an association.
And there's no ampersand in there. They're just empty naked hashes.
Well, it's a function, I would assume.
Okay. So it's holding.
No. Oh, God. This is a mess. This is a mess.
How do you know what the parameters are? Okay.
You don't, because it doesn't need to know. Because what you're doing is you're mixing two sets of parameters, and that is going to bite you. I can't tell you exactly how, but it's going to bite you.
Well, what about my proposal to use Hash2 instead of mixing associations?
How do you use Hash2?
So you have all your, Hash1 is the association that is given by the parameters.
That's a horrible mess.
First thing. And Hash2, which you don't need to use at all if it's not an adaptive test or something like that, is the internally specified standard quiz metadata.
But if you do that, you've got to take apart Hash1 all the time.
No, you don't. Do F open bracket hash A, comma Hash2, and apply it to an association and then arbitrary additional arguments. It works.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Is this actually documented to work?
I couldn't tell you if it's documented, but it works.
Well, we better check, because I don't think this is a thing. It's interesting that works.
I mean,
no, that's right. It's because it's hash sub A. That's right. Hash A is equivalent to hash sub A.
Right, and numbers are special, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. That's why we have the key and slot and stuff like that to disambiguate. I mean, this is
Well, I admit that that works. That's not totally ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
that at least solves the problem of mixing parameters.
yes.
Let's see. I hate the name question generator, possibly because of runoff from document generator.
Okay. I mean, question function seems fine. Sylvia, Steven Schroeder, do you guys have name ideas? Or Avery?
I have
Thinking,
used the
but
word question generator so many times that it just lost all meaning to me.
anything starting with the word question begins to
I just don't understand this. I don't understand why we want this. Look, why are you putting this here? Why is this not? I mean, that's the thing that you put. I don't understand. Why don't you just have that thing right in there?
Well,
You're going to use
This-
n repeatedly. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
So use with. So use with.
That was the first design we came up with. We had with wrapped around everything, and it was much uglier than this. To make
But I
more
understand
questions.
why you want.
To make-
I mean, why don't you put? Look,
I mean, we could have an idiom where it's question generator of with, and then it
no.
works.
No. The issue is, look, you've got this function. I don't understand. Why is this not? You're using the same parameter in a lot of places. That's a thing you do very often in the system. This is a pure function. It's not going to evaluate. You can just say with, n equals random integer.
Yeah. We could do that. I think it'll be uglier than this, but
I think we should do that. I don't think we want a new mechanism. It's much more difficult for people to learn a new mechanism than it is to use an existing mechanism. Because if we use with, okay, that fills in all the parameters other than I don't understand. Look, the only thing you're getting is you've got some hack to do with deployment. That's yet a different
hack.
thing.
It's not a hack. Don't be pejorative. It's code.
No, but the issue is you've got I don't know. I don't think this is right. But look. I mean, right now we don't have people using what we built so far, do we?
Internally, we do.
For what?
Danny Finn's been using it for some of the consulting projects. And
Okay, but wait. Have we used it for Wolfram U, for example?
we're starting to. It isn't in a live course yet. I think McLuhan's used it for some CBM stuff.
Look, okay. After an hour, I may be about to reverse myself and say, look, I don't see an obviously better way to do this. I do not like the way you're doing it, but I don't see an obviously better way to do it. That's definitively better. Okay? So there's a certain argument we should introduce this as experimental and have people start using it and find out, you said you find with very ugly, but you say that because you've actually tried to use it.
Yes.
I think that, the whole document generator mechanism, every time I try to use it, I'm like completely confused. And it takes me, a whole bunch of time, and it usually doesn't even do what I want.
We could do both. Can you look at there's no reason the one argument form couldn't be the same as the two argument form with an empty list. And then if you just put with in there, it'll work, right?
I'm not sure that's really helpful.
Okay,
but people who
understand. People who want to
understand.
write questions that way can, and we can make the one argument form be the same, just resolve to.
Yes, but the
list.
whole mechanism that you have here, the reason this is not going to work, okay, is that the whole mechanism you have, it's the same thing with document generators. It's just a completely different new mechanism from everything else in the system. Where else in the system do we have something where default values are fed in like that? Even an API function, that's not how it works. API function, it's an input function that's given in that first parameter. This is a completely different mechanism, never seen before. And, the only time you're using it is for random generation. Right? That's the only thing you want to do. You're trying to use it this way because you have things where you have the same random object that's going to occur multiple times, actually usually twice. Usually it occurs exactly twice, once in the question, once in the assessment function.
Yep.
Right? And I just think it's completely crazy to have a completely new mechanism that has never been seen before elsewhere in the system, and where everybody who sees it has to learn that mechanism, a fresh new mechanism. It just doesn't seem right. The cognitive cost to learn a new mechanism exceeds the lack of elegance of having an existing mechanism.
Yeah, I see. I understand your point.
Which means that what we would have is in the question bank or in the question object bank or whatever, there would be things which are parameterized questions. Okay, which say with n equals random, whatever.
Oh no, I still think we need a dedicated wrapper. But I'm saying we can get rid of the first argument if you think that's too, discordant with the rest of the system. But I think we need a dedicated wrapper. That's not just
because of these deployment things.
Because of these deployment, I think it can't have function head. The thing, it can't have function head. It won't work. Head function. Did I say function head? Yeah.
Let's get rid of the first argument for now.
I think that's fine. We can do that, and it's safe to if our idea somehow it becomes obviously right, it's safe to move in that direction again, even from then on. It's a safe.
But except that it's going to be hash1 is the argument that you give to that pure function for the assessment data, whatever it is.
I didn't even think about the assessment data. Sylvia, do you have thoughts about that?
Which is being squiggled in here.
Yeah, it is.
How is assessment data set up in a question object?
It's an assessment result object, which can be, can nest. Assessment result objects can nest, and they're queryable. So you can extract, the correctness from every question answered so far, or the score from the third question. You can query it like a data set.
I really don't like this. I really don't think it's right. I mean, I think it's going to bite us in some way. You know, I think people are not going to understand. I think every single time. I mean, look, it's one of these things where maybe it can work, where people are just sort of, you know, just remember it like they remember some random, you know, idiom. Look, I don't see an obvious way to solve this. Maybe we just have to go for this version, having this the way you've designed it as experimental.
Okay.
Although it would be.
Do you want to change the name of either generator or pool?
What's the difference between pool and bank?
I don't think there is one. If I'm wrong about that, somebody correct me, please.
Question choice, question. But also this question about whether the thing has a single. I mean, look, okay. I would like to make a meta point. This design is kind of hard, right? So I'm not giving you guys a hard time for, I mean, I don't think it's right, but I think that untangling it is a, you know, I cannot see an untangling. And, you know, so I have the advantage of having tried to untangle things like this for many decades. So I don't think, you know, I don't think you guys missed anything obvious. I just don't, my gut feeling is this is not right. And it's tangled up in some way that we will maybe only learn after we start using it. But you understand what I'm saying, that the question pool right now, because it is not based on having an argument, you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Is not usable for multi-poolal things, if you get what I'm saying. You can't pick it up. You have to go grunge inside it.
Right.
I mean,
we could take the n out of it and just make the n an argument to it.
I think people are usually going to want that.
Yeah.
I think what it is like a random variate. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
I mean, really, that's like, it's almost like a random question, random choice or something. I mean, really what it's like is a random variate where you give it a blah, 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 you know, Gaussian distribution as its first argument. Although that, again, just takes the number n there. But you want something where you can pick it up from the overall course repository and just stick an argument into it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Account, not an argument. Yeah. Yeah.
Account, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It does make sense for the count to come externally.
Okay, so maybe
internally.
I mean, maybe we should call it random question function.
The generator? What we have is question
no, not the generator,
Oh.
not the generator.
The word function in there makes me think.
I feel like as a teacher, like pool or bank are going to be words that they're more familiar with.
Yeah, but unless they understand something, the fact that it's random, the fact that it generates, look, the pool is what's in it, right? But it isn't, look, okay. Guys, unfortunately, we ran out of time. Let's try to look at this one more time, but why don't you plan on just using what you have and making it experimental?
Okay. And we have a few changes that we've decided on that we'll make, but we'll keep the names.
I mean, I think there's a way to unscramble this, and I think you've got to think it through carefully. I think document generator is not a success. Okay, so we don't want to, you know, pile a lot of stuff on top of that. But okay, sorry, Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I thought this was going to be the easiest meeting of my day.
Yeah. If it
But
just
this
been
stuff is
question
really
pool, it would've been-
complicated.
the question pool one isn't that complicated. We can certainly nail that, I think.
Right. This
Question
is
generator
I would just-
is tricky. That's I
have
said
you
coming in
talked to
here.
yeah. Have you talked to anybody else about this for people? I mean, that
Yeah, we have a lot of people happy to give us their ideas in meetings, and we've taken their ideas.
all right. Okay. Well, this
Yeah.
probably needs a bit more heavy lifting, but I think the right thing to do is to start actually deploying with this and see what happens.
Okay.
And I think, and it could be that it's just fine, and it could be that it will get tangled up in some corner case and require, much more work. But if you want to, bring the bit back one more time if we have a chance, and particularly if you think about this a little bit more. I mean, you heard my objection.
I think once the question notebook based workflow is in and you can see that all come together,
Yes, that will
help
be
the
very
whole
helpful.
conversation as well.
Right.
So we'll try to get that working, and then we'll bring it back to you.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.